Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for prize fighters, circus freaks, and gangsters. The 19th century show in which we get so deep into the 19th century by watching TV and movies based on it and then critiquing them to tell you whether or not they got it right. My name is Jamie.
And I'm Greta.
And we are ready to talk about food, fashion, fun, fist fights,
firearms,
fraud, all of it. Everything, except we're in the 16th century right now because we're taking a little side tour into Japan.
Yes, 17th
Shogun,
century Japan. It's
specific.
right on the cusp of 16th, 17th. It's hard to keep track sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It starts in 1595.
99,
or
something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're off to a phenomenal start since I got the century wrong. But you know what? Centuries don't matter when you got stabbing. And we are going to do we're at least going to start out with some people that got exploded. And that is a good way to begin.
Oh, yeah. My first word in my notes is giblets.
It's human Jenga. They're just seeing how many different ways they can most efficiently get human body parts into a cart.
Whoa. So back in the 90s, there was an online game called Doom. Did you ever play that?
Of course I played Doom. In fact, when I did a trip to go check out colleges, and I went to Ohio Wesleyan, they had just gotten Doom the week before, and they had been up for like a week straight. We didn't do anything other than play Doom. We just played Doom. That was it. That's for an entire weekend. I saw nothing of Ohio Wesleyan. I just played Doom, and it was amazing.
Just played Doom. Well, one of the many reasons that was an amazing game for its time is it was somewhat customizable, and there was a patch that you could put on it called giblets, and so every time you shot, it was like extra giblety. I didn't play it, but my boyfriend, now husband, did, and since he was an early network architect, his excuse was always, no, I'm just making sure the network speed is good.
Oh, we actually, I had friends that worked in the IT lab at the University of Arizona, and we would go there on the weekends so that we could build our own server and have a zero ping. So I worked with, or I at least played with people who had that exact mentality.
Yes, but that's where my giblets comment comes from the patch where you could make it an extra giblet experience in Doom.
Boy, those were violent days in video games.
Yeah.
They had that video game Narc where you were running around being a narcotics officer, shooting people and stealing their drugs and then taking them. It was wild.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well.
But not as many body parts as we have at the opening of Shogun right here.
No, but that's definitely why we turned out so well as a generation. Our video game choices.
We are unfazed by gore, that is certain.
Anyway, so yes, giblets, the aftermath of the end of last episode where things went kablooey and...
I thought you were going to kind of launch into a song there. Giblets, giblets, roly-poly giblets.
Nah, I can't sing. We all know this.
Yum.
Not an easy person. But yeah, they're all sort of standing there, and of course it's the poor, the peasantry is the one who has to upload the body parts, and then it's that thing from Westerns. You kill the bad guy, and then you have to worry about his posse coming for you, and that's what everybody to the last human being thinks is going down right now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if they had a Peasant Times that was going day by day in this show, it would just be the headline would be, "We're cursed every day. Doom is upon us." Every day they're like, all right, so there's evil demons. This white guy is going to kill us all. Everything has gone wrong. And now there's cannons.
Yep. Here we just hear the thundering hordes coming through the pass, but it's not the bad guys. Who is it? We don't know.
It's reinforcements.
And at the head of the reinforcements, it's Buntaro that went down fighting.
We thought he was dead. We thought he went down swinging. The samurai, and we thought he just vanished so that Anjin and Mariko could just get it on. And so did they.
Nope. He is back from the dead. And I just love the way they filmed this. You cannot see, if you were really super paying attention to the badges on the helmets, you would have probably gotten it. But you're like, who is that? They did such a fun thing with the sun flare. It was awesome. And you know who is happy? She's not living in one of those cultures that when your husband returns from the dead, you're supposed to leap down from your horse and run up and like leap into his arms.
Yeah, she is happy. Well, she's happy in that regard, I guess. But otherwise, I mean, this guy is the enemy of fun, is he not? He could fuck up a wet dream, this man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mariko is so glad stoicism is the order of the day because she can do that. That's about it. And then we have we just go into the phenomenal credits. And then we get to, I think your least favorite part of this show is, like, this is an action intrigue show, and we just go full intrigue with people whispering at each other in rooms.
You know, I think the most fun thing was, it wasn't just that, like, Mariko's husband is alive, and they just are like, high five to you, sir. Congratulations on surviving. You're going to go live with the barbarian now. And he's just like, are you guys fucking kidding me right now? I already went on record saying I don't like this man. I just killed everybody to get back here. And what?
Yes.
But it's a testament to how much everybody hates him. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess we're glad that he's on our team so we don't have to fight against him. But fuck this dude.
It's like, he crazy. We can't, we gotta chain him up.
It's like how the New York Jets must feel about Aaron Rodgers. They're just like, fuck. I mean, I guess he's better than whoever else we got, but fuck, this is what we got?
The only problem is that at least Buntaro realizes that there is a bunch of social roles and rules he has to follow, and he does a damn good job of following them. Like, where there's wiggle room, like, oh shit, watch out. But at least he holds up, like, his end of the stick in terms of, like, holding social cohesion together. Aaron Rodgers, don't give a fuck.
No, but you just identified exactly why, and I couldn't really pinpoint it. But, I mean, I always just fall back to Unit 731 is what irritates me about Japan. But then it's, it's the ticky-tack loophole bullshit. It's all ticky-tack loophole bullshit that they're like, oh, yes, I live inside this society of rigid, strict rules, but I'm always looking for loopholes. And that shit drives me crazy. That kid who used to quibble about the rules of a game to win. Like, was the kid I always beat up. And
and those are the people who make us have, like, you're like, why can't we just have a rule that you do this? And then all of a sudden it's like rule subheading 14 subsection A.11.2. It's because these people force you into that position.
Yes, but they're very irritating people.
They are. Well, and who doesn't love a rule book that's like 4 things long and now they're like 27 pages long? And you're like, can I just go back to the 4 things one? Please? Yeah. And it's because of little quibblers like that. God damn it.
Well, in sports, it's actually due to sports betting. That is the reason for sports rules. Yes. Yep. Okay. I learned that with the development of baseball. But we can cover that some other time because that is fun 19th century knowledge.
I was going to say baseball, 19th century. We got to get there.
Let's combine racism and sports in a psychotic way.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Buntaro's not happy. Mariko's not happy. Anjun is going to be not happy in the near future. But before we can get to that, it's time to do intrigue, man.
Let's just say nobody is happy with their living situation in this at all. This could be a reality television show. If this was set in the 20th century, this would have been the real world. You know what I mean? We would have been waiting for them to vote somebody out.
Yeah, everybody who has like a sweet job, like, you know, well, not sweet job, but like a job where it's pretty low pressure. They get to do what they like working in the garden in a nice house is probably a pretty good job because like you kind of get the equivalent of a paycheck and don't have to deal with all the social bullshit. But all these high-powered people, for all their lives of luxury that they're leading, contentment escapes them for sure.
And that goddamn gardener gets it too.
Okay, we will talk about that. I have many things to say about that. Let's do some intrigue real quick, because how much fun is it that the Regency Council is like, okay, we're gonna do in Toranaga, and Ishido's like, fuck me, the goddamn rules. We can't get rid of him because he left the council, and now because our council isn't big enough. And then they're like, so who's going to be the 5th guy? It was just like, yeah, that was some real world bullshit right there.
Yeah, totally. They're trying to vote somebody out of the house.
Yes.
Well, but they will stink of Christianity. And it's like, my God, like you guys are just... Holy shit. It's like watching Republicans trying to pick people for the Supreme Court.
Oh, my God. It is. Oh, yeah, because nobody's talking about, like, who's going to do a good job. No, it's all about one-upmanship power. Like, oh, you'll get too much power. You'll get too much. Like, how about the guy who would do a good job? No. We can't tell him what to do.
No. But we definitely don't want that guy.
Right?
He's not in anybody's pocket.
Right. Oh, I mean, politics are going to politics no matter where you're doing politics. You can be in Japan. You can be in the 19th century. You can be now. And yucky.
Oh, I can't wait to get to some of this food stuff, because I didn't even look up one of the things, and now I'm damning myself for it, but hopefully you can save us.
Okay. All right. We'll see what we can do about it. But this is a really good episode for like super indirect chit chat. And so Toranaga and Mariko are like up on the hill talking. And the way that they're like, oh, I'm so happy that zombie husband is back. Yeah, me too. What an amazing, like, nobody will say, fuck me, but the circumspect way that they're talking about his return and like the word joy never comes up is very well done. I was just like, that is, yeah. And Mariko's just like, you know what? I am just, my entire emotional life, I'm just shutting that sucker down for the duration. Nothing good can come of that.
It's giving me a great playbook, though, because I've already started to like turn my verbiage so it's not, so I don't have to give everything away at once, and also I don't slap everybody with every word that I say. But, you know, instead of saying, oh my God, this is a nightmare that your husband has come back from the dead, you know, the fact that your husband's returned has put us in a unique situation.
There you go.
I think you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
we need to find a better way to articulate ourselves, and I think this show can give us that.
Yeah, that's and it's sort of one of those double-edged swords, and we're gonna have so much fun with that. But it's
in what you're not saying.
There you go.
It's the negative space of your speech is where everything's being said. It's such a different way from the way Americans are.
Oh my goodness, yes. And if that's not a theme of the 19th century, I don't know what is. This is sort of where Americans were like, we are going to be plain spoken. We're going to be direct as a dagger, and fuck you with all your politeisms. I mean, that was really the development of sort of 19th century language. And we are on the really like terrible end of that right now.
Oh my God. Yeah. We were Harold and Kumar, when that came out and the kids screaming extreme at all times, that's literally how we lived. I watched Triple X last night, and that was a fever dream of how we wanted to be in our heads. Like, we were the most extreme, and we did it without any drugs, which is the really impressive part.
But now we get to the pheasant.
Yes, the pheasant. This is a weird thing. Did you understand what he was saying when? So you can go ahead and set it up, and then we'll.
Okay, so, I mean, this is also where the title of the episode comes in, Broken to the Fist. And when I heard that, I was just like, are we doing just like straight up effing spousal abuse as the title of our episode here? Like, I was just, holy shit. But then like, no, it's this whole metaphor with hawks and how like people who do like hunting birds, falconer or whatever, like has their own techniques and their communication with the bird and like their relationship, and different birds have different personalities and blah, 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 blah. And so if you can get one of these wild birds to come to and from your falconer's fist, you know, that's the whole metaphor he's going with here.
Okay, and so
But I really think this is one of those titles like in Warrior where there's the obvious title And then there's like the other meanings of it.
I always, on falconers, I get, I genuinely, the second somebody says falconer, I just go, they sew the fucking bird's eye shut. And then I'm just thinking about different ways to kill human beings.
What?
Yeah, that's how they train them. They sew their eyes shut. It's a whole thing. That's why they always have hoods on.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
No, I thought the hood, because how?
They start with them, they sew their eyes shut at first. And then falconry is a weird thing. They don't anymore, but back in the day, they used to sew their eyes shut.
Like medieval period, or?
Yes, up until fairly recently.
Okay, I'm going to have to look this up. Like, I'm sure there was a school of that, but these birds literally hunt by sight.
Yeah, that was the thing. They started putting hoods on them instead of sewing their eyes shut, but the whole thing was that these birds are like blinded and crippled in their youth in order to prevent them from flying away, and then they train them to be their slave assassin. The whole thing's insane. I don't know. I
know that they clip their wings so like they can't fly away and they can only like do short flights, but I'm gonna have to look into this.
I promise you I did not make it up. Because number one, I'm like, how the fuck do you sew a bird's eyes shut? Like,
right?
How do you even hold a bird down? The whole thing doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, I'm sure you dope the bird, but okay.
Oh, yes. But I guarantee you there is eye sewing involved in falconry, and the whole thing is just, there's eye sewing. I have budgies, and I like birds.
Okay.
My little dinosaurs kick ass.
That's okay, but anyway, so basically what Toranaga is saying is like all these different dudes have different personalities, and so I have to unleash them in different ways. But he's bitch slapping his son saying like, look, I have this like poly-dimensional chess. It's like beyond multi-dimensional chess, and you're just screwing it up with all your direct action, Dorcas.
So none of this makes sense. So he punishes his son, who now has to call him Lord instead of father, because he fucked up and went and right. blew up the Josen. But he's going to promote the guy who actually had the plan to do it, and his son was just a pawn in the scheme. So is he just punishing his son?
No. No, Nepo Baby had the plan, but this is all this indirection. Yabashige didn't have the plan. Omi didn't have the plan, but by shifting the blame around, he can reward and punish people in ways because like he's the big boss man and they just have to say yes sir, whatever you say sir.
So it's the Russian model of you just punish somebody and you just reward somebody and you make it public that somebody was punished and somebody was rewarded so everybody knows the balance is in check.
Something like that, yeah. And so with Omi, like Omi wouldn't have come up with this. Like he's not like a complete dumbass, but you know, that's not how he was thinking. But by getting this reward from Toranaga, he's now like indebted. And what he's going to say, oh no, I didn't think of it. Because you also can't contradict anybody who's higher than you on the ladder. And this is a really good way to like rein in Yabashige. And so he's pulling strings. Like there's the...
Here, I thought they had me thinking I misremembered what had happened because I'm just watching this bounce around like, gee, what? Maybe I got up and took a leak or I went and got food or like...
I had to watch it twice
I was answering a
to
text.
Pull it all together. But no, this is this whole like you're saying, you hate this shit. This is why you hate this shit. Because, like, you saw it all happen. You're like, why does it just keep happening differently than what I just remembered 10 seconds ago?
And my formative years were in Texas, and I was a little white kid in Texas. I literally would stand in public with my hands on my hips, calling adults ridiculous and telling them about themselves. So, like, I am not built for this kind of intrigue. I would be exactly like Anjin, just screaming at everybody and pointing guns in every direction.
Well, okay, and that gets super fun here. But yes, so anyway, the pheasant gets sent to Anjin, and yes, step 1, you punish your son for taking direct action. We did that, and we explain the title of the episode and try to reassure us that no, we are not talking about physical abuse. I promise. Swear to God.
Well, we will be at some point, but so let's talk about this pheasant. Let's talk pheasants.
Yes. Okay.
Let's talk about pheasantry. So so Anjin is gifted this pheasant, which he sees as a great honor, and so he hangs it up instead of eating it, and as a trophy. What?
What the hell's going on here?
Yes.
Let me tell you what the hell's going on here.
Tell me what the hell's going on here. And is pheasant good eating?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, pheasant, like all wild birds, is going to be an incredibly lean meat, and it does have that flavor that people sort of call gamey. Now, when you have incredibly lean meat, whether it's, deer or bird or whatever, one way to deal with it is to age it. Now, you want to age it a little bit anyway to let the muscles pass out of rigor mortis. And that's done for all meat, even fish, because that just sort of lets one set of chemicals that is going to kind of mess around with the flavor sort of like get through.
Okay.
But then what happens next, like you've heard of like dry aged steaks, like at steakhouses and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, It's sort of the same process. What you're doing is you're letting some of the enzymes that naturally exist in our muscle cells go in and break apart the proteins down into their amino acid components. And one thing that happens when that goes on is you release a lot of glutamic acid that most of the world is now familiar with as MSG, monosodium glutamate.
Oh, okay.
And so it gives the meat a more savory, meatier flavor. And some of the other amino acids have attractive flavors as well.
Okay.
So, and then also aging, especially the way they do it in steakhouses where they're like 28-day dry aging, blah, 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 is you're also partly dehydrating the meat somewhat. And so the flavors are concentrated. And especially in our modern cows, they're very well fed and very well watered. So there is a very high moisture content that dilutes the flavors.
Okay.
So what they're doing with this pheasant and people who would like hang game is they're just sort of like letting the proteins just kind of break down a little bit so the meat's not so tough and so it's a little more flavorful. The only problem here is if you are a high-class Japanese person, you are a Buddhist, along with being Shinto, but along with being a Buddhist, you do not eat flesh. And this is one of those funny things. The Christians and the Japanese have the same definition of flesh at this stage.
Okay. Which is not fish.
Land animals, yeah.
Okay.
And whereas the Japanese sort of see this as like, we're better than everybody else and we will not eat quote unquote meat. Christians see eating fish as like a punishment, like, it's one of these stupid fast days. So it's just really funny.
Right.
They both regard fish as not meat.
So they wouldn't eat pheasant then? So what the hell was the point of killing it?
Oh, it's a present to Anjin. And then there are some lower class Japanese who aren't Buddhists.
Okay. So, okay. First, my first question is for the audience. What is the chemical that causes a food to be gamey? It basically just means it's a sour tasting meat to me.
Okay, to you, yeah. For me, for a lot of people, it has like almost kind of. It's a very funky flavor, and it's not one that's familiar to modern Americans because we pretty much don't eat anything that has a gamey flavor unless you eat like mature sheep or goat would probably be the only place.
Yeah, mutton.
Yeah, not lamb, but like mutton.
Yeah, that's why I know that it's just like a sour flavor. Goat and mutton are sour.
Yeah.
So what is the chemical that makes them that flavor? Okay. And then so you let the blood drain out of these animals, and the high moisture content you were talking about is when you get the quote unquote blood that runs out of the steak onto the plate is not blood. It is water and globulin. Is that what it is?
Globin, yeah. There's
globin, and that's what gives the steak the flavor. Is that correct?
No, it's the breaking down amino acids.
Oh, okay, so the globin doesn't affect the flavor? Because I seem to recall
it will add sort of a bloody
talking about it, giving
flavor
us. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where you get the meat flavor that people really
No,
enjoy.
that's from the breaking down amino acids.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well then, and so, but he left this pheasant to rot.
Yeah, like he's just hanging it.
Which they point out immediately. They're like, "You're leaving to rot? What is the point of this?" And
And he's not able to
So-
explain, like, why you would hang a game bird. And again, you know, he's a sailor dude, and he probably the women in his life, like he said, he cleaned the game, which I believe, but the women in his life would have done all of like the hanging and preparing and cleaning and cooking for the most part. Like a 17th
Gotcha.
century dude does not know how to fucking cook.
Except for the guy who's cooking on their pirate ship or whatever,
He
right?
was a ship's cook. That's a little different, man. You're just dealing with like
So they don't actually know how to cook. They're just sort of
they're
there.
like, well, they're they're
guard
preparing
the
food.
food stores.
I mean, maybe like before everything went completely tits up, the actual captain on the boat like had his own personal cook, like back on Master and Commander.
Russell
Yeah.
Crowe? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but everybody else, they're eating rancid cheese and weevils.
And
so it
salt
doesn't really
pork
matter.
and dried peas and just bleh. Yeah.
So there's no cooking
It's just
involved.
it's stew all the way down.
Gotcha. And we get to see some stew,
Yeah,
so that's fun.
true. But the whole thing here is, Anjin San's like, okay, you know, I'm hanging up my bird and nobody touch my bird. And like you Japanese are crazy. Anybody who touches it, gotta die.
I don't even think he was trying to say gotta die. He was just trying to say it's important not to let anybody take this bird down, but for what purpose, who the fuck knows?
Right. But again, like his limited vocabulary, but also he's just sort of like copying everybody around him. Like everybody's like, you don't do this, you do this, head comes off. So I'll say the same thing so you'll listen to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but in the background, super fun. Did you see the squash and the burdock root and the carrots and the green one, the white one, daikon? Yeah. So you got the squash.
I did not see any of that. And I would not know a burdock root if it hit me in the face.
But there's the
so-
squash and the daikon and the carrots, and then I just sort of assumed that they were burdock roots because they were in there. But they were like up there curing and drying out to be put away for storage. Like that was
I missed those
super
entirely.
cool detail. Okay, so
Was there ginger?
no.
Wouldn't you store all the roots together?
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
sort of like you don't store onions and potatoes together. They each release a chemical that rots the other one.
Oh, gotcha. And like pears rot everything in your
Right. And
Yeah.
so like different, like, but all of those things, you know, you'd store together. But anyway, now we have poor Fujisama. She's having a fucking nervous breakdown, isn't she?
You know how many single guys listen to this? Probably all of the people who listen to this. And they are going, what, different foods in your refrigerator make other foods in your refrigerator rot? It's a real thing. It sounds like weird black magic, but it is a real thing that happens.
It's
in
not
your
so bad in the refrigerator. It's just if you're doing storage, cellaring. But, and most of the stuff people have in their fridges today, you put one thing in a plastic bag, you put another thing in a Tupperware. They're not going to talk to each other. It's cool.
You know, I have had women act like if you put a pear in your refrigerator, you might as well just drop a grenade into it. You know, you're just going to kill everything. It's all over. You're going to have to throw out your condiments.
It kills the ketchup.
It's all over.
But yes, poor Fujisama does not have Tupperware, and she doesn't have a refrigerator, so she is having a goddamn nervous breakdown.
Because she's got a rotting bird hanging in front of her house.
And, like, they want to cook it. She's like, we have to get all new knives. We have to get all new pans. The cook is like, you have to get a new cook. I'm out.
He can eat whatever he wants, but nothing that he touches is going to be something we eat with. Thank you.
Right.
That is the rule.
Right. That was like this beautiful behind the scenes thing. And then just when things couldn't get any worse, Jamie, how do things get worse?
The boss shows up.
Well, but not the boss. Well, the other boss, I guess. It's Zombie Butero.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, hi, Uncle. It's so happy to see you. Hey, my face just froze.
This dude is he looks like he is on the verge of a stroke at all times. Like there's veins pulsing in his forehead. He hasn't shit in 3 weeks. He is just constipated as hell. He's in pain and he is mad about it.
And I mean, we talk about CTE, we talk about PTSD. I mean, this guy must have both in spades, and he's not like, I don't know, like, what his personality would be naturally, but culturally, like, he can't even mention that he had a bad time. He's just like, I'd like a bath. Like, that's as much complaining as he's culturally allowed to do, more or less.
It's it's fun. It's fun. It's fun when you keep it all inside.
Yeah,
you can distill your hate down to a very, very fine, potent liquor.
Yes. Woo! And yo, this guy, you can, like, you know, like, people have, like, different stink waves coming off of him. Like, his just, like, trauma, desperation, messed up, like, that's just, like, coming off of him in just waves. He's like, womp, womp.
He's like the first samurai of Columbine. Like, he is ready.
Oh my goodness.
He would have been a fan of Dylan Klebold. He'd be like, "Boy, can I come to school with you? Let's go get this done." I hate school
I have
kids
a few
too.
things to teach you. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I have some ideas. Oh God, I can't believe we're joking about that now. The world has just gotten so much more twisted. Okay, it makes sense.
Hey, you know what? Our generation turned out to be quite all right. We didn't have any mass murderers hardly. I mean, the school shooting thing was pretty light with our generation. We were too busy hurting ourselves. You know?
There you go.
Yeah.
that is a fair. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that may have changed, but you know what never changes?
What is that?
Ever? Medieval army camps and how the way they look.
It looked very orderly. But I mean, the whole thing with the Japanese was that they were very neat and orderly. But, you know, it was...
Right.
It's just, I wish that we would have a TV show where it would be like, meanwhile in England, and it's just like, they're in mud huts, just like shitting in their hand and smearing it on their face. No teeth.
But I mean, but the pavilions and the banners and the people milling around and the horses, I'm like, this could be anywhere for like 500 years.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, even going back to the Romans, I mean, that's what a Roman encampment would look like.
Right. And it was just sort of this cool realization that there's a lot of shit that changes in this world, but some things never change. And even when you go to any sort of military reenactment, even like Revolutionary War, you functionally have the same things, but instead of like personal standards, you would have like the regiment's battle flag. Mm-hmm. I mean, it there's like variations on a theme, but it always looks the same. You're like, hot damn.
Who is volunteering to be the fucking flag guy? And that whole, like, everybody's shooting at everybody around you, and you're the guy holding the flag. You want to be the flag guy? I don't even want to fight in a war. Like, I want to be the guy, like, writing correspondence in the back. You know, I'm not trying to get shot over some dumb shit. Let somebody else do that. But you want to carry the flag?
Yeah, everybody's going to make fun of you for not being brave enough, though.
That's fine. I'll be alive. Their corpse can laugh at me all at once.
There you go. And I do have to super enjoy Toranaga's, like, I don't have anybody to do my hair bonnet that he's got on.
Oh, yeah? Are you going to maybe cosplay as him at some point?
Or maybe, like, when you're wearing your helmet, you can't have, like, the crazy updo that all those, like, senior samurai dudes have.
There's probably entire manuals of samurai hairdressing that you could lose yourself for a year.
First of all, I'd have to, like, learn medieval Japanese, and that's just not on. But I bet you're right. I
guarantee you some weeb has already translated that shit into English.
Okay.
Don't discount the power of anime. It has inspired a lot of kids to learn Japanese.
That is true. That is true. But yes, there are multiple theses written exactly on that. You are so right. But yeah, so this is like step 2 in the misinformation whirlpool that's going on, and Yamashige is getting his chain yanked by Toranaga here.
And you're enjoying every second of it.
I was! Because he's just like, look, I know you did this so you'd have more time to play against both sides. And yeah, Yamashige is like, no, I'm totally your dude. Toranaga's just telling him that, no, I know you're doing this so you can play both sides. But anyway, and Yabashigu's like, no, it was Nepo Baby's idea. It was him. No, he's too dumb. I know it was your nephew. Oh, yeah, my nephew. Probably him. What a terrible idea. Anyway, it was a great idea, so now I'm going to reward him. And Yabashiga is like, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to promote that guy above you, in fact. And then his face is like, what? God damn it. Meanwhile, he literally had his fingers behind his back the entire time, like, no. I'm not playing both sides against the middle. I'm totally on your team. I'm 100% on your team, sir.
Super your guy.
What is your name again? Yeah, that one. I'm on that side. Whichever side you're on.
And then just the whole, shit rolls downhill. So Yo just goes out and just starts tearing the shit out of some poor peasant's house.
Again, it's one of those timeless things that it still happens to this very day.
Oh my goodness.
Find somebody to blame, goddammit.
And it was so much fun because, poor Omi's like, this was like an okay dude in my village. What are you messing it up for? And Yabashiga is like, well, he was a good citizen and a hard worker. That's the perfect cover for a spy. I was just like, oh, that is some classic right there. Oh, yeah. And so Omi's like, look. I know you're feeling bad. How about I just say I'm not going to do this? I give it back to you. And you're like, dude, this guy is in his go out and like break stuff phase. You cannot reason with the man right now. Stop trying to reason with the man right now.
He was a mad man.
Yes. And, they show the pheasant again. And, like, the pheasant in this episode is just the symbol of, like, things just going even worser all the time. Because, first of all, you, like, have to hang a dead pheasant. And now it's, like, covered in flies. All the flies.
So the one old guy looks at the other old guy, and he's like, this is almost as bad as Korea.
Yes.
Like, we were eating silkworms and soju. So they were eating silkworms and soju. Soju is a sauce?
Shoyu. It's
shoyu.
It's the Japanese word for soy sauce.
Ah, so they were just throwing soy sauce on some silkworms, and they were gobbling those down.
Yeah.
But I assume they fried them up first.
Steamed them, boiled them, yeah. But
that's right. They didn't have deep frying at the time.
No. Well, they
could have pan-fried them.
Frying first came from China, but the like frying in batter and specifically like a wheat-based batter that's what the Portuguese brought.
Well, wok fried silkworms would have given you a nice crispy result. Then it wouldn't have been so bad.
Sure, yeah. No, soju is basically Chinese whiskey.
Oh, okay.
Whereas shoyu is just the Japanese word for soy sauce.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I guess we learned a new thing extra because of my misspelling. So there we go.
There you go. But yeah, they're just like this. Oh, this sucks a lot. And Fuji-sama, she just, this is the worst. And she's complaining to Mariko as they're like shoveling food in. And do you know why they're shoveling food in like that?
Because they're not allowed to eat when the men are eating?
Bingo. They're like having a dude party and the ladies like are there and they can like pretend to eat. But if they're going to sit there for like how many hours this takes, like they can't really eat in front of the dudes.
It's just, you're so lucky to be a woman. I wish I had been born a woman. You guys just have it the best. You're lucky ducks.
Well, I mean, the shoes have to make up for all of it. Is basic, yeah. So they better be some damn good, and the shoes are not good enough to make up.
And you know what? I have some fly ass shoes, some literal pimp shoes with jewels and shit on them. They are the coolest looking shoes on earth. But I turn into the fucking butler from the Birdcage whenever I walk in them because I slip all over the place and fucking fall down. Like I literally cannot walk in the shoes. The inside's slippery, the bottom's fucking slippery. Fancy shoes are a goddamn nightmare. And so, no, shoes could not make up for any of the things you guys go through. But, hey.
Well, what you're missing is, like, remember in this where they show the woman, like, walking, like, those
I need to start walking.
Little,
but you
can't
shoes. Wear pimp shoes and walk like a geisha. That does not work. You can't, no. Pimp shoes and that don't go together.
Well,
you can't play funk music and walk like a geisha. Those two things don't go together. Try to walk like a geisha at a disco. It's just not happening.
No, you get different things, but they are still like, everything is hell. But because there's this warning that it's going to be a dinner party, we get to have a dinner party. And have you been to some awkward dinner parties?
I have, although I've never been referred to as a vengeful Tatarigami while I'm at them. I don't think. I probably have afterwards.
Yes.
But that was very funny. Like, they're calling this guy a god of doom, basically. They're calling Anjin a god of doom.
Like a spirit that brings all of the ills. Yes,
seriously, like he's all 4 horsemen of the apocalypse rolled into one human being, and now they're going to have a dinner party.
Oh my God! And so this is a really funny thing here that, like, I'm a plain-spoken, rough, tough Englishman. Rah rah rah. I mean, he sees that Todo-sama, that Buntaro, is just dying to have a reason to, like, lop his head off. Like, that's all this man wants in the world.
Oh, yeah. That's literally the only, he's just living and breathing. He wants to kill, but I think he just wants to kill everybody in the room. We come to find he hates his wife. He hates everybody. He's just one of those fucking guys.
Right. And Mariko even tells him, like, watch what comes out of your mouth, man. Like, to Anjin Blackthorn. Like, jibe. Watch it. And literally no consequences of his actions. He says directly no to Buntaro. Like, he already knows you don't say no in Japanese. And not to an equal, not somebody above you, and maybe not somebody who's, like, one step below you. Like, you can say no to the servants all day long, who cares? But, like, you don't say no to your social equals in Japan. And he just says it. Right after Mariko said, like, watch your mouth. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's really kind of embodying that. I guess we got that spirit from England, but that, like, I'm a plain talking motherfucker kind of thing. And then you get, but when you get drunk, that goes from 11 to an 89, and there's no stopping it in between. You don't hit 12. You go right to 89. There is no in between. So yeah, I actually wrote a note. Drinking contest will go badly.
So did I.
Yeah, I speak from very personal experience and a lot of it.
I did sort of have fun just sort of laughing at what is getting counted as an offense here and, like, what's rubbing everybody the wrong way. Because, Anjin's like, hey, check out this thing I made you. And Mariko's refusal, again, doesn't say no. She just says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a very picky eater.
Yeah, he offers rabbit stew to everyone there. Yeah. And I didn't realize they were refusing partly because they were vegetarians, but also because they will not eat anything this man touches because he wants to live around a rotting pheasant. Right.
But also, like, the blood from warm-blooded animals is considered a contaminant, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
So, yeah, what, I'm going to put that inside my body, and that's why he has to have his own knives. I mean, it's sort of like, you're dealing with a kosher kitchen situation or somebody who has a really bad food allergy, or some people are going to come for me, or a certain kind of vegan who just can't get over themselves.
You can't cook it on the same grill.
Did that fork ever get used in a meat dish? Well, I need my own fork. So they are being a bit like that.
This actually explains so much to me because I have been confused by how Japan has failed to actually produce any real martial arts masters because they're all Korean. Like, all the guys who were considered Japanese but were major fighting champions out of Japan, like Masoyama, for instance, who invented Kyokushin karate. They were all Korean or Chinese. So but they needed the meat in order to be bigger because otherwise they were really, really tiny and nobody paid any fucking attention to them.
I always wondered how much of that was, like, they went for sort of, like, this purity. They weren't willing to take on any sort of, like, innovations. Like, but this works better. Yes, but it's not classic. I wonder how much of it was that, too.
Yeah, Well, they had traditional jujitsu fighters who would go to the United States and fight. And actually, President Roosevelt was one of the first jujitsu guys in the United States. But
well, hey.
yeah, but they were all very, 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 very small people, and I never really understood like why the hell are they only 120 pounds? Like we got all these Americans running around like around 200 pounds, and the Japanese literally they couldn't send us one guy over 150 pounds, but nope, they couldn't.
Yeah, well, and that's actually one of the interesting things. Sumo wrestlers, even if they do follow Buddhist practices, are given special dispensation to eat things like beef and fowl and other sort of warm-blooded meats. They get special dispensation to do that.
In their chanko nabe.
Right.
Have you ever had chanko nabe?
I have not.
Oh, well. You will not be a proper sumo without it, so you need to get on that.
I mean, all I got going for me is the height. Everything else is wrong. Wrong sex, wrong mass, wrong outlook on life. Yeah.
But there was an Estonian female sumo player in the 19th century.
Ha! Well, damn.
Yeah, they've actually had female sumo throughout the centuries, and I believe in the 17th century they had numerous female sumo. So you could have gotten in on it. It was 16th or 17th century they had female sumo. There are a lot of medieval records of it, and it was a very, very popular pastime in medieval Japan.
I can believe it, because I just think of like there was laundry in Japan too. So a lot of those peasant women doing all of that laundry, they would have sumoed your ass off. And
women were able to be taught martial arts in Japan. So it only makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a Shinto rule that prevents them from. They're only prevented from going in the one main official Shinto, because Shinto or at least sumo like rings are Shinto shrines. So No,
sumo and Shinto are like you can't break them apart. There's not one without the other.
Which is weird because you wouldn't think animists would be sexist.
Look, you got to have the boys' club, man.
It doesn't, but they call it Mother Earth. Like,
yeah, but people are in charge.
And they never make sense. And speaking of Mother Earth, we passed over something that I learned that I found very interesting, and also the man dies later and is important to the story. So,
okay.
Before the dinner party, there is a scene where Anjin sees the little old man who later dies. His name is Yujiro, I think.
Yeah, Ujiro. Yeah.
Ujiro. So he is moving a stone, a big stone in the garden, and he says to Anjin, "Without a good rock, a garden is just a place of growing." And I was like, that has to be important in some way because the introduction of the show is the different rocks in a garden, and it's used as a map. So rocks are one of three parts of gardens, and I didn't actually have a moment to look up the other two, but they're considered to be the bones of the garden. So I guess one's the flesh and one's the muscle. But they communicate the intention of the garden to the owner. So it's like literally it's the anchor of the entire thing, and it represents mountains. So sometimes they would arrange rocks in a way to represent like the scenery around them, or they'd do their own kind of arrangement. But that was actually a very important part of the plot line that I picked up on somehow while not paying any attention to the intrigue.
Because it's not your favorite part. It's okay.
Apparently I love rock gardens, though.
Well, there's a lot to be said for rock gardens. There's no getting around it. They just sort of like put calm out there. They can't help but do that.
They are beautiful to look at. And the way that he set the stone and then arranged the pebbles around the rock became important at the end of the episode as well.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad that they spent some time on that. And it's just like, it's re-emphasizing, because it can kind of fade into the background. Like, nothing the Japanese characters do is done without some intention. Like, you can just... Like when Buntaro comes into the garden and he's clearly taken off his outside shoes at the front door, and he's walked through the house in his house shoes, and now he's going into the garden and they have to put on his garden shoes, and he stands there ignoring the women putting his shoes on him. There's so much intentionality in just everything that the Japanese characters do. And it kills me. But The Rock sort of made that very clear. And it was beautiful.
See, and I didn't realize that The Rock made that clear, but I also didn't realize that all of that is just like, it's like a wrestling gimmick. Like their entire exterior appearance has nothing to do with what's going on inside of them. It is merely a reflection of what they think they need to display in order to live in society.
Yeah. I mean,
That's wild. That's so opposite of the way we are in the United States.
Yeah, Anjin can only deal with like maybe one layer of misdirection, and then we have what's going on with Toranaga, and you're like, wait, what happened? And I'm like, no. He's like 8 layers deep here, man.
Yeah, I mean, the Spanish are only at like 3 layers of misdirection. The Portuguese, like, he is totally unprepared for this. He's like, the Turks. The Turks only have 5 steps. How are you at 19?
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of like the dinner party and like all of these things, the specificity and the little things that are getting brought up for, what he's doing wrong, like how he eats noodles, like, God, can't even eat noodles. Like, that was just so funny.
Had the shoe been on the other foot, though, it would have gone exactly the same way. Like,
oh, totally.
If he had been caught by the British, he would have been there trying to figure out how to make chopsticks and use them, and they would have been mocking him for that.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, but I was just having fun with the things that they're choosing, and oh my God, Mariko can see like how bad this is going to go from so far away, and she's trying to do all the things like, oh, Fuji-sama, she's so tired. How about we just wrap this sucker up? And the dudes are 4 bowls in at this point, and are like, no.
When you get 2 hate-filled men with a head full of violence and a bottle of liquor between them, they're going to drink it. And they both know it's a terrible idea, but then they're like, and after the second shot, it becomes a phenomenal idea. Because they're like, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to kill this person across from me or something. We're going to hurt each other. We're going to get good and liquored up before we do it.
and it is really funny because Buntaro kind of like has he's getting more and more focused on the outcome, like where he wants things to go. And Anjin is just like flailing, like he's just going in more and more directions. He's like, how about this or how about that or tell me a story about your wild escape. And everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe you asked him that. That's so embarrassing. Like, I can't even explain why that's embarrassing.
And so that's something about Japanese culture I didn't know because, we come from a culture of bards and, songs of warriors and all this. And
And like your nickname is like Cut Off 3 Heads Johnson or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this man knows Beowulf backwards and forwards, probably. Like, He's expecting to hear a tale of this great adventurer, and I didn't know that the Japanese weren't supposed to do this. So I guess Musashi was not supposed to write the Book of 5 Rings? Why did it get so popular?
I don't remember. The sake?
And from everything I know, Musashi was very much like this fucking asshole in Shogun. Like, just constantly punching down on people and picking fights with people he knew he would beat.
But yeah, basically, Anjin's about to find himself in a situation. Like, in the past, if he fucked up, he could basically, like, get out of it somehow or go fix it or throw money at it or I don't know. And he's about to create a situation where he can't do a damn thing to make it better for the problem he caused or even to make it better for himself. Like, this is going to be bad for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but everybody's in a no-win situation at this point, it seems like.
Well, except for Buntaro.
I guess. And Lord Toranaga, who can just skate off into the sunset for no matter what happens. He's
That's right. Yeah.
He's like the bad guy from Sonic. He can just twist his mustache and scare off into the distance.
But we have to spend a few seconds talking about the archery that goes down here.
Zen archery. Even drunk.
Yeah. Doesn't matter, does it?
No, he fires around his own wife's face and splits his own arrow like William Tell.
And one hole for both arrows through the shoji.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even notice that, but
Yeah. Yeah, the way they framed it, like the one hole, like after he shoots the arrows, like it's kind of between them, that both arrows went out the same hole in the shoji.
Yeah, that was a real cowboy style pissing contest. That was a real I'm your Huckleberry type moment.
Oh yeah. Oh, that went all the way. And the thing is, like, Anjin, zero self-awareness. Like, he's been told to chill. He's been told to watch what he says. He sees this guy's a fucking maniac, and he's like, you should treat your wife better.
So I am, at this point, like, standing up watching this, like, oh, we're going to get a fucking sword fight. Because at this point, I am convinced that Anjin is just the greatest sword fighter who has ever lived in the West. And he is going to carve this man up. And that is not what we got at all.
Superman
I was certain of it. I was certain he was just going to be like, oh, yeah, let me show you what I can do with this fucking sword. No. Nope.
He just completely endangered Mariko. Like, this is some dude brain that this guy has right here. Like, zero self-awareness, that by telling this clearly unhinged asshole what to do with his wife, that's going to make sure she gets beaten. And I'm like, okay, this is where the second version of broken to the fist comes in.
I will say, speaking from personal experience, that I didn't even realize I had been complicit in having that happen probably in my life more than once. But now thinking back, yeah, a girl probably took a beating over me, beating up her boyfriend over her. So just like a girl I didn't know who I saw a guy slap a girl in public, beating his ass probably just got her beat up worse in the end.
And the really screwed up thing is, like, oh yeah, Japanese women can get divorced, ask for divorce, whatever. But, you know, Mariko's like Princess Diana at this point. She's way too high up in the hierarchy to get divorced. And then on top of that, she has no family to go back to. Because we find out in this...
Except she's not, we found out. She's from a disgraced family whose father killed a person who was fucking up the country. Mm-hmm. And it's... So, like, her whole family line is disgraced. Right. And her husband thinks she's gross. And I see a kitty cat. And, yeah, I am easily distracted by cats. But, yeah, so she's got no standing. And he's... more than happy to scream it drunkenly. Like, he wants to fight her over her poor lowly birth. So, yeah. So it's like he resents her for, like, her social standing, even though he married her anyway. It's bizarre.
I mean, everything's so twisted and folded in on each other, and it's a mess.
But then he was probably commanded to marry her by Lord Toranaga in the first place, right? So,
or like, yeah, or somebody like one of the middle managers in between. Nobody's making good decisions because nobody's making decisions. Everybody's making decisions for them.
And imagine how many, like, embittered relationships that left women scheming to have that lord punished for, like, keeping her from the guy she actually liked. You know what I mean?
Or just, like, not having to be married to him. Like, it's not even, I gotta go somewhere. I just don't want to be here. Like, yes, also that, but
I was just thinking, like, imagine if your husband's boss at IBM or whatever, like, when he was first hired, was like, oh, you got to marry this other woman, and you were like, well, that's trash. And then you get saddled with some nerd you hate, and your husband's off married to some other woman. You'd probably feel some kind of way. Maybe start a plot or two about it.
Yeah, well, and it's just really funny. Like, there's in the Japanese plays, you've got somebody who's married off to the wrong person. They can't be who they're with. Whereas the English tragedy plays is these two teenagers run off because they're so hot for each other, and that ends badly too. So
yeah, it doesn't work either way.
No.
But it really does point again to Mariko's saying to Anjin that because he is controlled by his love of freedom, he's a prisoner to himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is really, like, you know, going to Freud and stuff, like blowing away your ego. I was like, oh my God, you really, like, that really would change your perspective on everything if you thought you were destined to be in the position you were in, as opposed to able to form your own path in the world.
Right. And that's a very sort of like Buddhist take on things as well, that, all desire causes pain. And so if like you're always fighting against things that you feel like are holding you back or interfering with your freedom, like, yeah, you're causing your own pain, dude.
Yeah. Just stop struggling. Just,
Yeah.
just float in the quicksand.
Different ways to do that. But I did love our little interlude of more spycraft going down.
Okay.
When just when like we're going through all those rocks and everything there by the beach, or it's like, oh, Tortonaga's got like his secret spy pigeons. Woo!
So the more spycraft gets involved in this, the more I second guess who the hell I'm looking at. I'm like, all right, wait, is this the right person? Am I thinking of the same person? They plot against everybody's plotting against everybody all the goddamn time. And now there's secret carrier pigeons off in the distance. It's hard to keep track of everybody.
And the only like interesting part that came out of all of that, other than that wet pigeons can't fly so well, is they're like,
fucking tell that to New York pigeons. They're just fine.
And so the fisherman guy we saw, like, first thing in the first episode, it turns like he's Tortonaga's spy. Oh, that was pretty sweet. And they're like, okay, you're my guy, and you're actually a samurai that's been planted in this village as being my spy. So if you're going to survive, you have to find a sacrificial spy to, like, toss on the pyre. We found the spy. And you're like, and that was a big, like, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, but Jesus, that was another, and it was the whole time I'm looking at Ange and going, "Yep, I agree with you, bro." Because so the guy who showed him that a rock was the anchor for a rock garden, it ends up getting killed because he takes down the pheasant, the rotting pheasant, to save the village
because it was stanking up the neighborhood.
To save the village from flies and the stench, and Anjin didn't realize that the verbiage he used is incomplete, like, grasp of Japanese got this little old man killed, who literally volunteered to take the pheasant down and die because he had been sick recently. And it's just, and so he finds out he's indirectly or directly responsible for this man's death. He basically ordered his second command to put him to death because he took the pheasant down. But the guy wanted to die anyway. The whole thing's a mess. It's just too much. Like,
okay, so I didn't remember that directly from reading the book, but as soon as it came up again, like it like reappeared in my memory, and I was like, oh. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh, Anjin-san, such a nice guy. He feels so sorry for the old man. I feel a little differently a couple decades on. I'm like, Anjin, you absolute fucking bastard. How many people did you get killed fucking coming to Japan? Like, there were like so many guys on that ship. They all died. You were acting like a complete
There were also 5 ships when they left, and they all died. His ship was the only ship that got there.
So he's responsible for all those deaths because he's got this big fucking ego. And then when they're in like the pit in the village and he like just won't fucking calm down, he gets one of his guys boiled to death. He's like, he has done all of these things that are
also, he keeps asking where these people are, and he keeps getting told they're somewhere else. I am willing to bet that somewhere else is in a hole. They are no more. Do you think any of them are still alive?
They're either that or, they're like in a prison somewhere or in a hole or, just ashes somewhere out to sea. I don't know.
But then we get an earthquake, so they're probably dead in the prison anyway, because the whole village is destroyed. Everything's destroyed. And Anjin gets to save Toranaga's ass again.
Yes, and this was pretty dramatic. So the thing at the beginning, right before the earthquake happens, where like the birds like burst out of the trees, that is real. Because I've lived in Washington State. I went to college in Southern California. And yes, the animals do go a little loopy right before an earthquake. And my friend had a snake, and she grew up in Southern California. And 12 to 24 hours before earthquakes would happen, she would ball up. She was a ball python and just like not move, like disappear.
Huh.
Like, the animals do know. They're like 12 to 24 hours. It's not very helpful.
It would make sense that snakes, especially, because they're especially sensitive to vibrations in the ground.
Vibrations, yeah.
Yeah.
But that whole thing with like the birds exploding, that's not hyperbole. That is real. I have seen a version of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I only got to experience one earthquake in my 1 year of law school in San Diego, but in the time that it took me to remember if I was supposed to get in the bathroom or the doorway, it was over. So,
oh, my two favorite, like, oh, earthquake, hail. My dorm room, I had these closet doors that would fall open, just the way they were hung. They always fell open.
Okay.
And I was just in my room and they wham slammed shut. I'm like, well, that's an earthquake. And then the other one was I was in my house where I grew up, and I'm just sitting there like late at night, and it felt like somebody hit the house with a car.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
This was it felt more like a really big truck was driving down the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was one of those guys.
Like, I've been in an earthquake that woke me up, and I've been in several. Happily I haven't been as close as the characters in here, but it is fucking disconcerting.
Yeah, in this one, the ground just liquefies and slides down the side of a mountain, which I guess is how these things happen. But it looked...
Oh, yeah.
It was...
Oh,
the ground was sliding like it was... I mean, it was moving like it was an ocean.
Yeah, there was no extra here. Like, they weren't exaggerating something that could happen.
Yeah, and it was kind of prefaced in was it the last episode where she said, like, our life is impermanent, and that's why we build our houses to go down as quickly as they go up, because they're going to fall down in earthquakes and fires and whatever.
Yeah. And so we get one, everybody's kind of stuck. They don't know what to do. And we're just going to hit you with an earthquake and a nice fast adrenaline rush. That was a big old reset button just when everybody needed it the most.
It really was, especially for Anjin, because not only now is Toranaga, because Toranaga was pissed at him for whining about the situation with his gardener being killed, and he was just like, I don't have fucking time for this. Like, you need to get the fuck away from me with this. And
look, baby. Yeah.
And then the ground liquefies, and then Toranaga's swords get caught in the ground. Like, he saves Toranaga, but they can't dig his swords out, so he hands over the swords, and this is also another interesting thing. It's one of those things that, like, what is the meaning of a word, or what is the meaning of an object? The meaning, or what is the meaning of life? The meaning is in what you give it. So when he was given the swords from his assistant, what is her name?
Fuji.
She thinks that these swords were from her father, and he was a great noble man.
Right,
and
right.
We find out that they were worthless, and they were like bought off some drunk or something and given to her, like, so that she would think that they were his swords, and they are his swords to her, so they mean that to her.
Right.
And they don't violate that belief by telling her the truth. And then he gives those swords to Toranaga. Yeah. So now that, like, these are a bum's swords, but they have great meaning when they're given to him, because the belief is that these are another great samurai swords.
Right. Or even just, like, it almost didn't matter what the source of the swords was. It was just sort of his impulsive action in the moment. He's like, fuck, I can't walk around. He's like, look, it's
like walking around with no pants on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There is so much interesting stuff about maybe Anjin understanding, like, the importance of meaning in that moment, as opposed to, like, his own belief. Like, is he going to get more self-aware? Is he going to, like, start looking around and seeing how his actions affect the rest of the world? I doubt it, but...
Sometimes you fail forward, and he might have just failed forward here. Like, here, you take my swords.
Yeah, because this whole thing with him getting so pissed off that, his gardener got killed, I'm like, this is so very much the thing with like 70s and 80s dudes like so mad that like their actions had consequences. Whoa, there's pollution. Women are mad at us. Like, why is the financial situation so fucked up? I just deregulated the banks. Why are our kids so dumb? All I did was defund education. Like, that's kind of like, oh, you're noticing that this has consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like my dad once telling me to go to the dentist. I was like, are you going to fucking pay for it, dickhead? Your generation got rid of dental insurance, so I'll go to fucking dentist when I die.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah. I can't believe you killed my gardener just because I said so. And it's like, you're not paying attention to the world.
Yeah, and but I paid all this money for an orthodontist. Oh yeah, it's the same shit.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I kind of think because the writers that they have on this and the producers, it's like not the people who produced the 1980s, that they're putting some of this stuff out like front and center. Like, hey, there's more going on here, or maybe it's just because I'm not a teenager anymore, and yeah.
Well, to be fair, when James Clavell wrote this book, Japan was a fucking mystery to us.
I mean, 100%, yeah.
We knew of it, and we knew it existed because we had bombed it flat. But like, basically, all we got of Japanese history was World War II history, and then our grandpas telling us about how much they will not drive a Japanese car because they hate the Japanese.
Right.
That was the sum total of what we knew about Japan was fuck them and fuck their cars per grandpa.
and geishas, like between like James Bond movies
and ninjas and samurai.
People doing, taking leave in Tokyo. Like, yeah. We knew fuck all. And this really was...
They chain smoke, they eat off naked ladies, and they drop dead of heart attacks at 45. Japan.
Right. And this book was like the first crack of the door. It's problematic as hell, but I still think it served an important purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it was written with the best information at the time. So, that's all you can do. Do the best you can do.
Big fucking chip on his shoulder from what you mentioned.
Well, yeah. A time in a POW camp will probably do that. And I imagine, just like our boy in this episode, I imagine he had a bit of CTE. You probably don't get out of a war in a POW camp without a little bit of head injury.
No. You've got some trauma that, you're going to drink about. Mm-hmm.
Might not be your entree, but it's going to be your side dish and your dessert, probably. Yeah, and with the liberal applications of what Quaaludes, cocaine, and vodka in the 70s, I'm sure he was really working through his issues.
You got a little lead poisoning to reduce the mental functions as well. It is good stuff.
There you go. Just cut down on the inhibitions. Maybe he had a cat too, and he certainly wouldn't have emptied the litter box with any kind of frequency, so he would have had trichinosis on top of everything else. Little fewer ambitions. Why?
Toxoplasmosis.
Toxoplasmosis. That's
trichinosis is what you get from undercooked pork when the pigs eat trash.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no, those are the creepy worms. Don't confuse the brain worms with the gut worms. Come on, man.
I got to get my worms together. And hookworms in the feet.
Ooh.
And you know what? That guy, James Clavell, had all of those worms in his body when he wrote this book. Because he certainly fucking got hookworms while he was in a Japanese POW camp. Oh, my God,
you're right. Oh.
He probably still had them because they weren't treating them, because that shit is heavy meds.
Yeah. I mean, especially if it's been going on for a while. Like, at the first instance, you can just take some lighter meds. But, I mean, here's the sad thing. That horse paste that people are taking for COVID.
Oh, the ivermectin?
Yes. Uh-huh. That is actually a very effective and cheap vermifuge. Something that deworms people.
Oh, sweet. So if I ever get a tapeworm, I don't have to have Mel stand over me with a flashlight waiting to pull it out of my nose while I'm sleeping. Because that would be way more fun, but no. I could just take ivermectin? Well, it's good for something then. That's good.
Yeah, no, it's sort of like chloroquine. Like it's a cheap medicine that does a damn good job at the thing it does.
Well, that makes total sense. And I mean, because COVID is spread by worms, that it would worms from bats that were engineered by the government, filled with robots.
Robot worms. Okay, good. Yeah, got it.
Robot worms.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to end on that intrigue, we got to talk Lady Ochiba and how she ends this on the next cliffhanger. Fun thing, there are paintings in existence of the actual Lady Ochiba, and so her whole look and thing and costume is based on these paintings of her from the 17th century.
Ooh, that's very cool.
Right?
So they were doing, so Japanese paintings were watercolor, right?
Effectively, yeah. They were
okay.
They were like very thin ink paintings. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's they had a very, very different, it was a much more subtle style of art.
Right.
But I guess everything was more subtle. They really had that whole Jedi vibe going on.
Well,
that was really...
Because they'd gotten to, like, develop their culture over a long period of time, and it didn't just, like, get completely ripped asunder. I mean, yeah, you think about, like, European culture, and it was in turmoil on and on and on and on and on for different times. And so that when the plague came through there, the just, like, whoop, got completely upended. Whereas, like, Japan suffered from the plague somewhat, but they weren't also fighting everybody else around them. So they were able to sort of hang on to their culture.
They were nicely insulated from the plague.
Yeah.
They were really nicely insulated from the plague.
I mean, it's some of it came in through the ports for sure, but not anywhere. No.
Well, the Indo-European speaking peoples are the ones who brought it to the world. It's what wiped out the very first people who invented the Indo-European language group and tamed the horse.
There you go. But
yep,
yes,
Black Plague and smallpox, double feature. Woo! We rock it.
But yeah, so Lady Ochiba,
they're the gifts that keep on giving.
Yummy.
Now found in Florida. It's a piece of living history.
There you go, and it's going to make history, and I don't want to be part of it, thanks.
Well, luckily you're on, 4,000 miles away in Japan.
About as far away as
you
I
might
can
as well
be
away in Japan. You might as well be in Japan in Washington State. I mean, you really are about as far as you could be from Florida without crossing an ocean.
Yes.
I mean, you could be in Alaska, but who the fuck's going to be in Alaska?
Cross the ocean there. But
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Ochiba, even though she's a lady, she has like the most status of just about any lady in all of the Japans, because she is.
Have we seen this lady before?
Briefly. So when the Taiko died, like his death scenes and stuff at the very beginning, she was there, but she didn't say much.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's the mother of the air, so she's got about as much power as any lady in all of the Japans that can have. So she can't like actually tell Ishido that he's full of shit, but she can still vent her spleen and make very strong suggestions.
I mean, this would kind of make her the Empress Dowager or something like that. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, and in a weird
way... Or Dowager
way,
Empress, I forget how what the order of words is there. But...
I'm sure it depends on which language tradition you're coming from.
Oh.
But yeah, and in a weird way, she has more power because she is the mother of the heir. If she was just the wife of like a ruling taiko or shogun or something, she would probably have less power.
Oh, she wouldn't become the shogunette?
No. You think some Japanese dude's going to share his ruling power with, like, a lady person?
Well, she would have that nobility status, whatever the shogun's nobility status is. I mean, she's up there.
Right. But you sort of look at the way, like, internal politics work, and, like, the ladies can't come to the meetings and, like, offer their policy suggestions.
Oh, yeah, no, not unless they're a translator.
Right.
Boy, that really would have been the best way to insert your own politics, is to be a translator.
But whereas you have a minor who's sort of the quote-unquote ruler as the person who's, like, directing the education and, like, she could actually attend meetings, like, as the representative of the air. And so, she has power in a very particular and short-lived way. Different people in different dynasties where you had like a minor ruler, it was not uncommon that like as this kid like was reaching their age of ascension, like 13 and a half, whoopsie, bad mushrooms, we'll have to start all over.
It's almost like being an opposition leader in Russia. Like it just accidents befall you periodically.
Or even if you're a guy on the same side, but you haven't given a big enough Christmas gift.
It's funny how poison just gets into the food like that.
I don't know. It's crazy. Well, if I want to stay away from bad things to eat and choose the good things to eat to make me stronger, where can I listen to you about that kind of stuff on the internet?
At Plague of Strength on Instagram, where I post every single day, and it's always entertaining. How about yourself?
And I mostly talk about the things that won't kill you, at least not quickly, on my food history podcast, The History of American Food. But
it might as well be the history of American food poisoning. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's the history of American food poisoning. From colonial period until what, 1940?
Yeah, 50s, 70s. I mean, the colonial period, it was more just not enough food. I mean, yeah, there was some food poisoning, but I'm getting into the 19th century where we like actively poison ourselves and start putting all sorts of weird shit in our food.
Oh, yes. When the milk was half pus and half question mark.
Oh, some formaldehyde to make it bluer. It'll be great.
There you go.
It'll be fine.
Oh, boy. It's just a house of horrors, the food of that era. But
boy.
I love your podcast. It's so much fun.
Well, and people should also remember that you have a website, Plague of Strength, that can be dug into for all sorts of interesting nonsense about strength training above and beyond just your Instagram.
Oh, yes. If you want to get in-depth on some nutrition and you want to learn about some historical nutrition, maybe meat pies, tacos, something like... I did a very, very fun deep dive on tacos and the history of tacos al pastor. And so you can get on there and you could get lost for days because I have 3 million published words on that site and another 2.5 million unpublished.
Hot damn. All right. Well, we will be back next week with... well, the post-earthquake world.
Yes, we will. We're in the back half of this series.
Yeah, there's only 10 episodes and we just finished 5. Yep, here we go.
Hopefully this will spawn a spinoff of some kind. That would be fun. Well, we shall see.
Yes. All right. Well,
all right. Well, we
week.
will see you guys next week. Enjoy yourselves. And remember, history is dope.
We're on Instagram at PCG Podcast. And you can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.